The Donald Trump indictments. That's with an S, by the way, because there are multiple indictments, several. And the newest of them has to do with Trump being charged with essentially being charged for the treason that he attempted in attempting to overturn the election of 2020 to keep himself in power. He is in deep right now, like deep. We already covered what's going on with Trump's arraignment and all of that stuff yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday, and there is more to cover today that we'll be getting to. But this story in particular, it's from 4 hours ago, at least it was when I found the segment, which is a few hours ago. Anyway, this is from The Independent, and I just goddamn knew we had to talk about this. Rudy Giuliani goes on unhinged rant claiming Mike Pence's wife leads him around on a leash. I would see. I can't do an impression of. I guess I do like a really like mumbly, like phlegmy New York accent.
I would see him.
No, hold on.
I would see him with his wife, having something around his neck every night.
Giuliani says of Pence. Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know, I should just try to do like. Okay, here's the tip to doing like a Rudy Giuliani impression. I just have to talk with, like, the thick New England shoe-on head accent, but as if I had, throat cancer.
Rudy Giuliani claimed that Mike Pence is being led around on a leash by his wife during a mad rant sparked by the former president's comments on Donald Trump's latest indictment.
I feel like that is... Tell me that's not pretty close. That's pretty close.
Dead ass.
That's the key, all right? That's how you do an impression of a character, right? You find something else that you can do that's close, and then you modify that, right? Rudy Giuliani. Okay, so hold on. I feel like I should give a little background to this because many of you are no doubt confused. Because Mike Pence and Donald Trump were running mates in 2016, and Mike Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. So why is it that Rudy Giuliani, a pretty good ally of Trump, and Trump himself, why are they turning on Mike Pence? Well, because Mike Pence is assisting in the charges against Trump. You see, when Donald Trump lost the election and he attempted to overturn it to hold power, Mike Pence wasn't really on board 100%. He was not as willing to overturn the long-standing, democratic process of this country in such a way as Donald Trump was in order for him to keep power. And so because Mike Pence refused to help Donald Trump in overturning the election, Mike Pence quickly, both to Trump and his supporter base, became an enemy. It's why back, during the January 6th election, you had a lot of people chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." A lot of them wanted to murder Mike Pence for betraying Trump and not assisting in his ousting of Joe Biden from his, democratically elected position as president. So that is why they are all against Mike Pence now, because Mike Pence is slightly less of a fascist than Donald Trump. That is essentially the problem here. Rudy Giuliani claimed that Mike Pence is being led around on a leash by his wife during a mad rant sparked by the former vice president's comments on Donald Trump's latest indictment. Mr. Giuliani, Mr. Trump's former lawyer and allegedly one of the co-conspirators in that indictment, went after Mr. Pence on Newsmax after he slammed the former president's gaggle of crackpot lawyers for supporting his lies in connection to the 2020 election. The former New York mayor's rant came hours after Mr. Trump pleaded not guilty to 4 charges at an arraignment in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. In this third indictment this year, the second from special counsel Jack Smith, Mr. Trump has been charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Responding to that indictment on Wednesday, Mr. Pence repeated what he had been saying since the insurrection on January 6, 2021, that he had no right to attempt to overturn the Electoral College votes and send them back to the states. For my part, I want people to... Oh, hold on, really quick. Wait, no, this is Pence speaking in this bit here. Hold on, we got to do a Pence impression.
For my part, I want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election, and that the president maintained that day,
and frankly has said over and over again over the last 2.5 years, is completely false, Mr. Pence said. According to The Hill, it's contrary to what our Constitution and the laws of this country provide. So Mike Pence basically says, yeah, I didn't even have the power to overturn the election, so it's like, he literally couldn't have done anything. Like, even if he was to help Trump, he couldn't have done much, right? You know, I'm a student of American history, and the first time I heard in early December somebody suggest that as vice president I might be able to decide which votes to reject and which to accept, I knew that it was false. I dismissed it out of hand, Mr. Pence added. Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. I feel like that's pretty good. Here, let's hear Mike Pence speak.
Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers.
Well, I was so on! I was so on! Dog! I didn't even remember what Mike Pence sounded like. I just assumed, alright, old white guy from this part of the country, and I nailed that sh**. I just tried to do old white man impression from, like... Yeah, from like, the Midwest, and I just hit it. Mr. Giuliani made his displeasure with the crackpot comment clear in his Thursday Newsmax appearance. I'm a real... Hold on, no. I almost did British. I'm a real trial lawyer, not make-believe, like a lot of these people. I once got a congressman to break down on the witness stand and confess, Mr. Giuliani told host Eric Balling. I don't know. I don't think he's been in a courtroom and he went to law school or even went to law school. Nobody even knows. Mr. Pence received his law degree from Indiana University, Robert H. McKinney School of Law in 1986, while Mr. Giuliani attended New York University. I thought before that he was a really good guy, but too weak to be president. I always worried about him following Trump, because I would see him with his wife having something around his neck every night, Mr. Giuliani said, referencing Mr. Pence's wife, Karen, and her name's Karen? Okay, maybe I believe him. And gesturing to the use of a leash and collar. She lets him go to the bathroom by himself, but that's about it, he added. But imagine that skunk doing what he did today. If he can't separate Trump from the First Amendment issue here, then you're just not a good person. This is not about Trump. If this were being done to my worst enemy, I would be fighting the case for them, he said. I feel like I'm doing a good impression. This comes after another bizarre rant on Mr. Bowling's program by Mr. Giuliani earlier this week, where he argued that Mr. Smith should be indicted for indicting Mr. Trump. Yes, indict him for indicting the criminal. The criminal we like and think should be immune to the law. And we literally nicknamed him Teflon Don because we think he should be immune to the law, and we see that as like a benefit to him. The people lynching are the people bringing this. They should be indicted for conspiracy against rights, he seethed on Tuesday night. That's Rudy Giuliani. The people lying are the people bringing this. They should be indicted for conspiracy against rights. What is conspiracy against rights? What? Is that like legal terminology I've never heard? That's like some high up shit if so. Or he's just talking out of his ass. He is a lawyer. Maybe, I expect him to know legal terms. I don't know. So here's what I say to Jack Smith, he said. After the Supreme Court threw out your case, which would have been a disgrace, you should have gone and found another profession, because you don't belong in this one. This one will be your legacy, violating the rights of free speech of an American citizen. Never mind whether he was the president or not, he added. It could be anybody. It could be a homeless person. I keep going British. It could be a homeless person. You don't get to violate people's First Amendment rights. I'm going Australian now. Fuck. I can't keep up an Australian, a New York accent like this, dog. To violate people's First Amendment rights. I can't stop doing Australian now. I'm sorry. It's stuck that way. There's no getting me out of Australian now. We're gonna just have to read it normally. I ran out of, voice impression juice. Zan, more throat cancer? Yeah, the throat cancer will get me there. Hold on.
It could be anybody. It could be a homeless person. You don't get to violate people's First Amendment rights, Smith. No matter who the hell you are, no matter how sick you are with Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Giuliani then brought up a copy of the indictment before slamming it down.
This is not the first time you've acted like an unethical lawyer, he said. It should be the last.
Mr. Giuliani's attorney, Robert Costello, told to the New York Times that it appears that Mayor Giuliani is alleged to be a co-conspirator number one. Mr. Giuliani made other unsavory headlines this week over a sexual harassment lawsuit filed against him by a former assistant, Noel Dunphy. I mean, are we not, like, obviously, Rudy Giuliani is groping and sexually harassing, like, interns and shit. That's, like, the most Rudy Giuliani thing I could imagine. Noel Dunphy sued the Trump ally in a Manhattan court in May for $10 million for allegedly forcing her to perform sex acts and making racist, sexist, and remarks while working at his side between 2019 and 2021. In a new court filing this week, Ms. Dunphy's lawyers provided transcripts of tapes that allegedly lay out in graphic detail some of Mr. Giuliani's sexually explicit remarks. Ben Goodman, a political advisor to Mr. Giuliani, previously told The Independent that the 79-year-old political veteran, unequivocally denies the allegations in the lawsuit. God damn. So basically, Rudy Giuliani, possibly one of the most, like, the Trumpiest of Trumpsters, is, you know, kind of melting down and seething over the indictment, too. It's quite funny. You love to see it. Do you guys remember when he started melting on stage? Like his hair dye just started, like, dribbling down the side of his head, and he just started to melt. It looked like a demon was seeping out of him. Like the demon contained within the vessel that's pretending to be him was kind of like overflowing out of his pores or something. Yeah, the cheap-ass fucking dye. If Giuliani is calling you unethical, you're probably doing something right. You're either doing something very right or very wrong, because, like, there's an extent, you know, to where it's like, you know, I think there's evil that even some Republicans out there would agree with the left on being evil. Do you remember when he had a conference at a landscaping company? Oh, yeah, there was that one, like, after Trump lost, and he was just out in, like, the back of a parking lot, like, behind a strip mall or something. Like, that was a weird one. I remember that, too. Four Seasons Total Landscaping? Was that the place? Oh, we got a new story from 13 minutes ago, guys. The judge who will preside over Trump's criminal 2020 election case is no stranger to January 6th litigation. Here's her. I don't know why, but I have a good feeling about the general political views of this judge not being biased in favor of Trump. I think Trump might have said or done some things that might have made this judge not too happy in the past. I think Trump might have done quite a few things to destroy any positive bias in his favor there might be with this judge. District Judge Tanya Chutkan, I think it's pronounced. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. It's Chutkan, who's assigned to preside over former President Trump's criminal case in Washington, D.C., has reportedly spoken out in very strong terms against the efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election and disrupt the transfer of power. Yeah, she's a judge. She's literally had to spend her entire, like, adult life, like, learning law. Donald Trump, like, on so many levels, Donald Trump should be on this woman's shit list. The dude has no fucking respect for the rule of law, and she spent her entire adult life, like, learning. She's the judge who's going to preside over one of the most important cases in American history. So it's like, yeah, she probably doesn't appreciate that whole no fucks given for the process of American democracy thing that he's been demonstrating. Chut Khan, a Jamaica native, has served as a federal judge since she was appointed by Barack Obama in 2014. Oh yeah, definitely doesn't like Trump. Trump, who's literally been on the fucking accusing Obama of being an illegal immigrant shit and whatnot. Like, who remembers that? The, what was it called? The birther movement or whatever? When Trump and his fans were pushing the idea that Obama was, like, unironically an illegal immigrant or whatever. Like, that was a crazy time. That was a crazy time in the culture war. Yeah, the birthers. Yeah. You guys, like, hypers in chat if you don't remember that. If you just, like, weren't in politics at the time. Early on in Trump's run, a big part of his, like, jump up in popularity and his rise to power was basically pushing a conspiracy. Like, he wasn't the originator of it, but he like, pushed it, that Obama wasn't an American citizen. And that he was, like, born in Kenya or something. I'm pretty sure he was born in, like, Hawaii or something like that, and then moved to Chicago. After graduating from University of Pennsylvania Law School, Chut Khan spent more than a decade working as a public defender in Washington, D.C. According to her biography on the court website, Chut Khan argued several appellate cases and tried over 30 cases, including numerous serious felony matters, as a public defender. Though Chut Khan has, or it could be Kut Khan. That could also be the correct pronunciation. You know what, chat? Find out how this last name's pronounced. It's Jamaican, apparently. Was randomly appointed to oversee the special counsel's criminal case. She is no stranger to January 6, 2021 litigation. In November 2021, Chut Khan forcefully rejected Trump's attempts to block the House Select Committee investigating January 6 from accessing more than 700 pages of records from his White House. Chut Khan, like many other federal judges in Washington, has presided over dozens of criminal cases against alleged January 6th rioters. She has been outspoken about the riot at several sentencing hearings, calling the violence an assault on American democracy and warning of future danger from political violence, and has repeatedly gone over what prosecutors have requested for convicted rioters' prison sentences. At a December 2021 sentencing hearing, she looked ahead to the 2024 election, saying that every day we are hearing about reports of anti-democratic I can't speak right now. It's Chut Khan? Chut Khan. Chut Khan. It's Chut Khan. Okay. Appellate? It's pronounced appellate. Okay, we're learning how to pronounce all sorts of new things today. Thank you, chat. It has been made clear that trying to stop the peaceful transition of power, assaulting law enforcement, is going to be met with certain punishment, she said. Chut Khan has even tacitly referenced Trump during criminal sentencings, saying to one rioter that he did not go to the United States Capitol out of any love for our country. He went for one man. Ooh, it's gonna be good. Oh, this is gonna be good, guys. That's the judge, guys. This is gonna be fucking good. This is going to be juicy. This is going to be succulent. This is going to be moist and flavorful, guys. This is going to be absolutely mouth-watering. Trump's court and campaign calendar is growing ever more crowded as possible charges loom in Georgia. Jesus Christ. Yeah, wait, this is all of the things that he's facing right now, okay? He's got lawsuits pending from Jean Carroll for the rape. He's got a lawsuit pending from the police, apparently, but he's also suing Jean Carroll. But he's got an incoming lawsuit from police officers for some reason, and then Peter Strozek through the DOJ is suing Trump, and then the Manhattan DA is after Trump for his finances, and then he's got a separate DOJ investigation for the 2020 election. And then for national security, we've got the Mar-a-Lago investigation coming at him. And then for more 2020 election shit, you've got the Fulton County DA suing him. That's in Georgia, or coming after him with criminal charges, I should say. And then finally, for more of his finances shit, you've got the New York State Attorney General coming after him. And that is the currently lined up list of shit Trump is dealing with right now. Multiple of those being federal charges, by the way. Is it struck? It's just struck? Okay, thank you. Look at this image. This is the image that visualizes it. They've got color coding for the different... He's got 4 overall things that are scandalous about him. He's dealing with legal shit for right now. So you've got the color coding. So these are Trump's finances. These are the pending individual lawsuits he's facing that are just kind of like too numerous to make more categories for. You've got the national security shit with the files in Mar-a-Lago. And then you've got 2020 election overturning shit. He's so fucked, dude. It's so good. I'm so, like, chat, hypers if this makes you, like, just ecstatic like it does me. I need to know you guys are as happy as I am about this. Good, 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 good. That's what I like to see. That is what I like to see. Post-indictment poll shows more Americans see new charges against Trump as serious. Okay. 2/3 of Americans, 65%, say that the charges former President Donald Trump faces over efforts to overturn the 2020 elections are serious. According to a new poll from ABC News and Ipsos? I forget how that one's pronounced. I'm sorry. I always read these things, so how you pronounce them is just never just ended up being a thing. Conducted after Trump's latest indictment. There's a larger share than felt that, that's a larger share than felt that way after either the charges he faces over alleged mishandling of classified documents. 61% of the charges related to that's a larger share than felt that way about either the charges he faces over alleged mishandling of classified documents, which is 61%, or the charges related to a hush money payment that he faces in New York, 52%. Most, 51%, described the new charges as very serious, compared to 42 who said so on the documents on the documents charges, and 30% on the hush money case. God, this is so weirdly written, but it's not like badly written. It's just the sentence structure's weird and it doesn't flow well with the way that I talk. That's my bad. A majority in the new polls say Trump should have been charged with a crime in this case, 52% versus 32%, who say he should not have been charged, and about half say he ought to suspend his presidential campaign because of it. Holy shit. That's quite a bit. You know what always stood out to me, ever since I started to move more to the left from my era of cringe conservative politics as a teenager, was I noticed there weren't a lot of Democrats, like Democrat voting people, legitimately moving to the right and deciding to vote Republican. Like, it just wasn't a thing. You weren't seeing a lot of people turned into new Trump supporters, but you were seeing entire Facebook groups and Twitter accounts dedicated to regretful Trump supporters from 2016. I literally, over the course of 4 years, saw tens of thousands of posts from people who claimed to have voted Trump in 2016 that regret it. It seemed like over the course of those 4 years, Trump was just bleeding supporters when he barely won the 2016 election to begin with. He lost the popular vote. He won by technicality with the Electoral College, which meant he couldn't handle too big of a hit to his overall voter numbers going into 2020, or he was guaranteed to lose. And that's exactly what happened. And the fact that Donald Trump is now looking even worse after all of this, and we've got like half of Americans on average are of the opinion these charges against Trump are really serious, like that tells me that Trump's chances in 2024, hell, the Republicans' chances overall in 2024 do not look good. Hell, the policies the Republicans have been pushing are just not popular. The wanting to ban teaching of science in schools to kids, the wanting to ban access to contraception and abortion, banning things like weed, and trying to, increase criminalization of possession of, like, basically just recreational drugs like marijuana and hallucinogenic drugs. Like, people just aren't in favor of these dead old policies anymore that the Republican Party represents. The only thing these days that the right has going for them, in my opinion, if we're actually talking about, like, policy, is guns. I genuinely think that, and it's not even that the Democrats are really all that anti-gun. They're pretty anti-gun, and they can be pretty cringe about it. But really, there are separate organizations that are not affiliated with any particular party of the United States that are more behind a lot of the bullshit we deal with in regards to gun ownership. A lot of it's done at a state level, actually. The ATF, for example, is just there to enforce those rules. So, for example, here in Washington, the governor banned the vast majority of semi-automatic assault rifles. Pretty much anything that isn't, like, an antique, essentially. Like, and like, with very small restrictions. And then also there was some grandfathering in. It's really complicated. I looked into it. And I'm trying to figure out what gun I want to get, so I'm figuring out exactly what's legal, what I'm not allowed to get, what I am allowed to get, and trying to figure out the perfect build within Washington state law. You know, I'm a legal gun owner. I'm not trying to be an illegal gun owner. But yeah, I think that overall the Republicans being so strong on the pro-gun side of things really f***s over the Democrats on a lot of issues. It is true that Zoomers are more anti-gun than any other generation, but that's not by a crazy amount, right? Like, overall, especially upon getting older and owning property, the rate of, belief or approving of owning guns goes up in most Americans, particularly when, like, home ownership and property ownership starts to get involved in your life. Like, once you start to work a job and own a house and you're like, fuck, you know, like, but, you know, if someone breaks into my house, it's just me here with God knows what to protect myself. I need a gun. It's America, dude. Like, people break into houses with guns. I need to have one too. You know, one of those situations. So with that in mind, I feel as though, and once you get a gun, you fall in love with the, like, sport of marksman shooting. So because of that, there's a vibrant culture in America around firearms. And the Republicans mostly have pushed a narrative that the Democrats are trying to demonize legal gun ownership. And in some cases, they are. There's a lot of misinfo you'll see spread about firearms by Democrat politicians. A good example is Joe Biden, when he said a 9mm bullet will blow the lungs out of your body. It's like, no. Basically, Joe Biden was trying to argue the only caliber of firearm that should be available to American citizens is .22, which is like, no, do not. It'll feel like it, but no, yeah. Anyway, like, it's just provably false statements like that you'll see some very high-up Democrats make. I see that repeated and used in Republican pro-gun, like, propaganda videos. Like, I'll go on YouTube trying to watch a video that's just about, like, a new gun that's come out that I think is cool and I want to learn about it. But then they go on a rant about how you should sign up and become a member of the NRA so that you can protect our Second Amendment rights against those goddamn Democrats. Meanwhile, the video has, like, 50 million views. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, yeah, there needs to be lefty gun content, and there needs to be some level of progressive messaging that gives the legal, responsible gun owner the idea that they are not hated for owning a gun, that they are not being lumped in with the school shooters and the people who do massacres or try to intimidate people in public with, like, open carrying at the Denny's or whatever. Like, I don't know. Outside of that, outside of guns, I really don't see any chance, in my humble opinion. This doesn't mean you should just be calm and not do anything come this election, but I don't see any chance of the Republicans having anything close to a sweep come the 2024 election. I really don't. I think the Republicans are actually more than ever, and that is my honest-to-God opinion, and I want to make sure that's the case, so that means you should be more motivated than ever to vote, and to get out there and make your votes count, and to do some phone banking if you want to do that. Maybe do a little bit of canvassing if you want to do that. But overall, voting is the best thing that you can do. And you should feel motivated by the fact that we have an almost sure victory here. Because you're not going to be doomering. That just because we have an almost sure victory doesn't mean you should just let loose and not care about this next election. That means you should be more motivated than ever instead of doomering like a lot of you guys do when things look bad. Anyway, that's overall my thoughts on this. We're going to be keeping up to date with these developments with Trump's indictment and everything, and whether or not he gets convicted, and if he gets charged with, or if he gets given like jail or prison time. It's going to be crazy. Let's find out what happens. Let's keep an eye on this. I'm excited to see. It's about time we saw some genuine karma come back around to bite Trump in the ass. Like genuine deep karma. This is absolutely phenomenal. It really, really is.